This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
You are listening to a very special Death, Glory, or Disappointment. Tell them why this one's so special, Dan.
One time with a bump and flex, I'm here with my right-hand man, the man who basically, outside of my mentor, if I hadn't met this gentleman, the whole Planet Dan thing would probably be, well, who knows? But what we're going to talk about today, I'll introduce you in a second, is the fact that wherever you are in your life, whatever it is you're doing, you cannot do it alone. And I'm proud we're going to introduce, over the next 3 episodes, we are going to talk with this gentleman, hashtag Teggles, hashtag Subway, hashtag
chocolate sausage.
So we have a lot of nicknames to Tega in our group. So I'd like to introduce you my right-hand man, the consigliere to all things Planet Dan, Mr. Tega Diegby.
What's up, peoples? How's it going? Hey.
Tega. Now, wait. Dan, I got to push you aside because I had somebody else to play.
I'll shut the fuck
up. So, how did you come into Dan's world, Tega?
It's actually quite, it's a funny story. Like everybody else, I was trying to do the entrepreneur thing and run my own business. When I was doing that, I went down the proverbial rabbit hole that everybody seems to go through, which is the bright, shiny object thing where you're just buying thing after thing. One of the projects I picked up was Ryan Levesque's survey funnel formula before the whole rebranding that they did. And this is obviously when Dan was still working for him. And then Dan got in touch with me. We got speaking. The reason we got speaking was I didn't believe he was real from the email he sent me. So
Wait. Tell me about that email.
Was that the one where I was doing the customer support? Yeah. No shit, did we speak back then?
Yeah.
Fuck, I didn't remember that.
Yeah, so he sent an email out saying, hi, my name's Dan. I'm this bearded British dude from the UK, and I do customer support for Ryan. If you have any issues or any questions, just reach out to me. This is my email. This is my number. And like I said, naturally, I didn't believe that number was real because I'd been to the IM ringer, shall we call it? And then when I rang him, he did pick up, and then we had a good chat. The friendship kind of developed from there. Text messages on Facebook. And then he started Coffee with Dan, and I was probably one of the first members.
Fuck, I didn't even remember that backstory, man.
Yeah. And then
I was drinking very heavily throughout that time. So
now, Tega, what did you call him for? What was the reason for you picking up the phone and ringing him?
I just wanted to see if it was real.
Oh.
I'm not going to lie. I have, my mind is quite inquisitive that way. That there was a phone number there. And like I say, I've been through the IM ringer, so I just thought, is that number real? So the next thing to do was call him, and he picked up, and we got speaking from there.
Now, when he picked up, at that point, did you believe he was real?
Obviously, I did.
I mean, there's some pretty smart bots out there, Jonathan, but really, why the fuck would anyone program this?
All right. I just wanted to get the backstory on you guys working together, but I'll let you take over, Dan, but I will interrupt where necessary.
Good, please do. Oh shit, me do stuff. Sorry, yeah.
I love it.
I want you to take over as in fucking talk, Meredith. Yeah, so
I knew that Dan bot wasn't real.
Fuck it! Yeah, as if they've programmed this level of stupidity into a bot. But yeah, so obviously started Coffee with Dan. It wasn't obviously supposed to be anything. It was just a productivity group for me back then, and just sort of dragging people along and sharing some of the stuff that I'd learned. But then it obviously soon started to spiral outside of what I had planned. And honestly, the areas that I were lacking on were systems and tech, and someone who could do the things that I could do, but quicker, more reliably, and without fucking up quite so much. I'm not a tech guy. It's not my thing. Some people are process and systems driven. I'm not. So I remember saying, look, I want to take some people on. I don't know what this looks like, but I'm looking for someone to do the things I'm not good at. And I had maybe 20, 30 people put a post in the group, said, hey, I can do that. And Teggles was anyone who messaged, who followed me up, and essentially just was the me that I was for Ryan Levesque. And then that's kind of where our business relationship started.
All right. So, Dan, when you were working, how long have you been thinking about this before that point where you needed team members? Because you were Ryan's number 2 for a long time. So as you're growing, how do you figure out, all right, it's time to do this. I need to do this. Who do I need? What do I need? How do you figure those things out? Is it just shit's not getting done? I need someone, or what goes through your mind there?
For me personally, mate, yeah, it was a case of, and I've said this to people before because I come from a recruitment and headhunting background, is I needed to hire someone where the amount of time it was taking me to do things was costing me more than if I hired someone else to do it. So I got to the point where if I wanted to, like a lot of people see staff or team members as a cost, as, if I hire someone, it's going to cost me X. I've been very fortunate to have that, recruitment background, and to me, I've always known it's an investment. That's how I'd always position it to a client. That's how I would know if I was bringing someone who was more expensive or, headhunting them from a competitor company. It was an investment in the growth of the business. And I knew for me to grow as both an individual as a person, I needed not only someone to do the things I couldn't do, and I'm very honest with this, and Tega knows this and never hit it. I needed a right-hand man. I can't do this on my own. I needed someone that I could trust and rely on. And, Tega has access to every part of my life, happily. I trust him implicitly. And that's the thing that's always been missing, because I'd always tried to do it by myself. And as we said at the start, you just can't. It is not possible to do this on your own.
Now, Tega.
In general, I say, unless you're a complete miserable fuck.
Tega, what made you actually want to help Dan?
And Tega, just going to say, you can say whatever the fuck you want. So you can even say all the shitty things I'm doing. We're going to touch on me being a dickhead as well, because it's only fair you both sides of the story.
You got to let us in on some of that. But what was the first thing, Tega? What was it that made you reach out? Because you're trying to build your own business. Dan needs help. What makes you say, hey, I'm going to help Dan?
Personally, the time whenever that post went up, for me, it was, I was coming to a crossroads in the journey, as it were. I was coming to the realization that I didn't know everything. So even though for quite a while I convinced myself that I did know everything, I was realizing I didn't know everything. And not only did I not know everything, my personality type, I don't really believe in the whole alpha beta thing, but I'm more laid back than most people. And for someone as laid back as I am to actually go out and start a business, it is quite challenging, as I'm living proof of. So I figure for me, it would have been best for me to get with someone who was doing something and who could use my skill. But on the flip side of that, I figured that I would not only learn, but I would experience what it's like to be with someone who was doing the things I wanted to do. And I could learn by osmosis. That's actually something we talked about at the start. It's just learning by osmosis, seeing what it took, and then being honest with myself if I could actually do that, or really down to if I wanted to do that.
I gotta call bullshit. So
bullshit.
Well, here's why. Because Dan says he puts the post out there, he gets a few replies, and then he says you're the only one that follows up persistently. Then you're telling me that you're Mr. Laid Back. So which is it?
Oh, good point.
You have to know that I know Dan. So Coffee with Dan had been going on for quite a while. So I knew what would get him to pay attention. Right? So he actually said in the post that he put up, like this was in the group, he'd actually said, if you message me and I don't respond, keep messaging me. So the way I saw it, I was simply following instructions. I didn't see it as me being tenacious or me being voracious with the follow-up, shall we say. So yeah.
Now,
see, that was it. That was something that Ryan taught me, is that you recruit for the person that you want via putting various systems in place. And this will teach, okay, so right now we're recording this live, okay, so talking about systems and structure. This is why Dan is not allowed to do things. Tega, can you just hold that for a second? So we're recording this live. We're doing this live, proper live. I bought this fancy microphone stand, but Dan built it himself and fitted himself, and it's currently wilting like a limp dick. So I'm just bolting it back together live. Right, okay, I think we got it, Tega. So this is it. We're keeping that shit in because we're raw and we're real. Sup?
Yeah, I like it. So, all right. So I'm trying to get to the bottom of all this stuff. So I'm going to say that, Tega, I knew that you weren't cut out for running your own business when you offered to do work for me and you didn't charge. And I refused.
Dickhead! You fucking idiot!
I'm gonna, and you know that I forced you to take money, right? I mean, I was like, I'm not gonna let you work for free. But I know, Dan, that you get people on and you do sort of an internship, and so how has that worked out for you?
That's something that I've worked, for free. I was with Ryan for 10 months happily, mainly because again, I learned so much from I learned from the ground up how to grow an internet business, how to go online. I learned copy. I learned networking in that world. I made connections and all this kind of good stuff. So yeah, everything was worthwhile for me. So I always said to someone, if someone isn't prepared to even work for a small period of time, I mean, look, we've got to understand, ladies and gents, the online world is not the real world. Okay, it's a little bit different. If you were to walk into a job in a supermarket or a cafe or an office and said, yeah, you can work your first month for free, you'd be like, go eat a bag of dicks. But in the internet, it is different because there is as Tega mentioned earlier, there's so many people who are spammy and scammy and who talk a good game, but ultimately they don't deliver and they're just making shit up. So I worked for free for a good best part of a year. Happily enjoyed every second. I have this thing where I expect people to work for me for a month for free, just to prove that they are who they say they are. At the end of the day, when we started out our relationship, it was we'd know each other, but we didn't really. I mean, now we've got multiple businesses together. Me and Tega are going into 2 new areas as business partners. We will both be very successful, wealthy men off the back of what I do. And I don't forget, and one of the things that's really important to me, and same as my mentor as well, is loyalty. I mean, Tega has been there for me at some of the shittiest and hardest moments over the last 2 years. I don't forget that shit.
Good point. Loyalty is hard to find these days. So, Tega, what were you expecting when you hounded Dan for this position?
I didn't know what to expect. The post that he put out just said, I need someone to do tech. And when we spoke, the key requirements anyway at the time that we spoke was just someone to man the webinars, record the webinars, make sure the tech was working okay. I quickly discovered that the scope of what was required went well beyond that. And for a little while, it kind of freaked me out. It freaked me out. And the reason it freaked me out was because from one moment to the next, I didn't really know what was expected.
Surprise!
That sounds familiar.
From one moment to the next, I didn't really know what to expect. But after the first month, the first month was actually quite tough because I had to do a bunch of freelance gigs on the side. And as you rightly pointed out earlier, I'm not someone that likes to charge. So you can imagine weighing the need to eat and the need to do a job properly, and then freelancing to make some income. So yeah, the first month was quite tough.
I think the problem is you misunderstood what freelance meant, but
yeah,
that's a story for another show.
But I think the thing, obviously, as our relationship has developed, the thing we've always had, and Tega, lived with me for 4 months last year, and it's probably going to #will have no choice but to live with me at points in 2017 because, one of the things we found is when we actually spent time together, we got shit done so much quicker. Like the weekend we had the other month where we just smashed through things by being in the same room for 2 days. It's as nuts as it was, it worked. But we realized that we have a good bond together, and Tega knows my weaknesses, and it's very much complementary to them, to the point where he knows where I've sometimes put my keys, or I don't know where I've put my keys, to the point where I'll walk into the living room when we've been working all day with a confused face on, and he'll just be like, "Yep, keys are on the side." And I'll be like, "Brilliant!" And this is it. We were saying a couple of episodes back about needing downtime and stuff. When I've been too much on, like my memory starts to go, I forget simple little things, and having someone in the business who can support me, and not just obviously finding keys, that's very patronising. Yeah, I hired you. Tega, bring me my keys. I cannot find them. That sounded
He's
really
a
bad.
butler now, all right.
Tega supports the areas that I am not naturally strong on, because they are his strengths. So I've really, like I said, some of the best, and I study people, every sort of leader or visionary, and I'm not saying that I'm that person, but, I have a mission and a goal that I'm trying to achieve. Every single person has always had, throughout fucking history, a right-hand man or woman. They've always had someone that they can talk to, discuss ideas with, share problems with, and that's the thing that was lacking for me for so long, was not actually having anyone to share the journey with.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That did sound proper fruity, didn't it?
Yeah. Anyways.
Where we live in Brighton, which is, there's nothing wrong with it, the gay capital of Britain. We really need girlfriends. Put them on social media. Put them up there.
Yes, I know you were digging that conversation with Tega. And look, we have a lot of ground to cover. We couldn't fit it all into one show, so that's why we made this a 3-part series. So we will be back next week with part 2 of Why You Can't Do It Alone. See you then. You've been listening to Death, Glory, or Disappointment with Dan Meredith. If you enjoyed the show and you want more, then your next step is to go to iTunes right now and subscribe. And while you're there, give us a rating and review. It'll help us out a bunch, plus it'll bring you good karma.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.